Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about the 4-Hour Work Week, the book written by Tim Ferriss. And I'm going to speak to you about the top 10 lessons that I learned from this book that I've been able to apply into my own life to build my own dropshipping business. If you're new to the channel, my name is James Eardley. I've created a dropshipping business that allowed me to leave my 9-to-5 job. And a lot of that journey started when I picked up this book, The 4-Hour Work Week, about 4 years ago or so. I've read it about 3 or 4 times in a paper copy, and I've also listened to the audiobook probably another 3 or 4 times. So it's been instrumental with some of the lessons it's taught me and how it's changed my life. And I'll pick out now from the whole book the 10 most important lessons that I hope that you can take away from this video, so you can also apply them to whatever walk of life you want to apply it to. So lesson number 1 from this book is where Tim Ferriss talks about the new rich, and therefore he redefines what success is. So what we're brought up as, especially in the UK, and I'm sure it will be in most developed countries, is that you follow the ladder to success. And success to the society is getting yourself into a good, high-paying job, the biggest sort of corporate role in your local area, and you work your way up to be a manager and perhaps a director one day, and you retire when you're 60, and you've been successful and you've had a successful life. Now, Tim Ferriss challenges that, and he says, is that really success? If you work over 40 hours a week, you don't have control over where you work. You get maybe 4 weeks of holiday per year. And he challenges that to think about, is that really the success that you want to see? So when you read the book, you understand that actually the new rich, they have their own way of defining success. And they define success not necessarily by the amount of money they earn, but about the amount of freedom they have. So they can work from anywhere. They don't have to trade their time for money. And so they have so much more freedom, and then he defines that as success. So when I picked this up from the book, I realized I was well on my path following society's definition of success to be in a corporate role. But it made me think about, actually, is that how I see success for myself? And I realized that I saw success in a very different way, which was creating time, location, financial freedom for myself. And this book opened up a new world where I realized that I didn't have to follow the corporate ladder. So that was the first big lesson. The second big lesson from this book was all about time management. So how you manage your time both with when you're off work and when you're at work. And the big idea that he brings forward, it was the first time I ever heard it, was the 80-20 principle, or Pareto's principle. And it goes that 80% of your output, of your results, come from 20% of your inputs or your efforts. So he realized that, and it came from a law that's been widely sort of publicized ever since the book, that if you look at all of the different activities that you spend your time doing, 80% of the results that you're getting, so 80% of all of the achievements that you're making, will come from just 20% of the time that you put in. Just 20% of the efforts that you're putting in result in 80% of the results that you get. And so from that, I started to look at my diary, realize what was the results that I wanted to get, and what 20% of my efforts were getting me the outsized 80% of my returns. And so you start to rechange, you think about your calendar completely differently when you realize that 80% of your time is being spent only getting that additional 20% of results. And you realize just how much wasted time there is within your schedule. The third lesson is all about automation, something that you're not taught about at all up until the most recent years. And I think this book was definitely ahead of its time, talking about how you could automate tasks. Now we have lots of new software that's come out recently, and perhaps the idea of automating tasks is coming around a lot more. But I first came across it in this book, and I realized that if I was going to start earning money from wherever I wanted to be in the world, and without having to be tied to my desk and my laptop at the same time, the only way I could make sure that I was still able to provide value to people was by automating processes. So by looking at the tasks that I do that could be automated, either through automated software or through automated marketing tools, then I could use that and I could be anywhere in the world and my output would still be the same. So automation is really the heartbeat of passive income. You have to be able to automate the results and the output that you create without you needing to be the person responsible for always doing that work. Otherwise, you can never make any money without trading it for your time. The next lesson from the book, number 4, is outsourcing. And I remember reading this chapter that's towards the end of the book the first time around, and it went right over my head, as I thought, that's never going to be me. He was talking about virtual assistants, hiring people in the Philippines, or India or Thailand. And he was talking about how you could work with these people and they would do all of the day-to-day tasks that you do. But it planted a seed in my mind that there's a possibility that you don't need to be the Amazons of the world. You don't have to be eBays or the huge businesses to hire and work with people that are in different countries. You don't have to have a massive budget to be able to hire somebody from a different country and to ask them to complete tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis. And it just opened my eyes. So now, after reading the book and learning a different business model about how to dropship products, I realized that I could hire and outsource a lot of the day-to-day tasks that I do to people in the Philippines. And they do an amazing job of the day-to-day tasks that I used to have to do myself. But up until reading the 4-Hour Workweek, I didn't realize how easy and quick it would be to hire somebody on the other side of the world to complete the tasks that you do day to day. Lesson number 5 is the idea of a mini retirement. So the idea of a mini retirement is that we don't need to wait until we're perhaps 65, 70 years old before we can retire. Instead, why wait until you get to 65 or 70? Why not periodically throughout your life where perhaps you have more energy? Why don't you instead have mini retirements and breaks within your working life where you stop working for a while or you go to a new country and work from there? And instead of waiting and always delaying and putting it off to a time where you can retire, why not start to enjoy yourself? Why not start to explore the world before you get to that time? So I will have mini retirement. I'm now running a business that I can run from anywhere in the world. So I can travel abroad and explore the world without having to be tied to one location and without having to wait till I'm 65 to be able to have that freedom to go off and explore the world. If you're interested in the business model I run, by the way, then I'd recommend just starting out with reading a book to really educate yourself on the business model. And it's a book that I'd recommend by Lewis Smith. So after you've read the 4-Hour Workweek, or hopefully this video will give you an idea of what it's all about, instead of reading this, you could read Lewis Smith's book called The Home Turf Advantage. And it's the exact system and model that I've put into place to be able to set up my own dropshipping business and implement all of the lessons I learned from this book. Lesson number 6 from the 4-Hour Workweek is one of my favorites. And in the book, he talks about being productive, not just busy. And it reminded me when I was reading the book that everyone who I speak to is always telling you about how busy they are, but that doesn't necessarily translate to how productive they're being. It's easy to fill your time with busy work, but that busy work that you're doing, is it actually pushing the needle toward the goals that you have? What this lesson taught me was to have blocks put aside in the day where I really do some deep, focused work. And so I knew that that time wasn't just me being busy. In fact, it was a time where I was being absolutely productive and pushing towards the goals that I had. The next lesson that I learned was talking about and overcoming the fear of failure. So there's an exercise that you do as you read the book called fear setting. And Tim Ferriss explains how if you're worried about going off and starting that business or pursuing your dreams, what often holds you back is that fear of failure. The fear of the unknown, or what will happen if you don't succeed and what will happen if you do succeed. And what he gets you to do is write down, the worst case scenario. What are you really scared of? And write that down on paper instead of just having it in your mind. So you write down all of the fears that you have, like going homeless or bankrupt, and really the worst case possible scenario. And it's only when it's on paper, first of all, you realize that a lot of it is illogical. But secondly, you realize that you can handle even the worst case scenario. And when you realize that the downside is not as bad as and how good the upside could be, that really flipped me to realize that it was riskier to stay as I am than it would be to go after the goals that I had. So lesson number 8 was all about how you can design a business to match your dream lifestyle. So once you've got your dream lifestyle down on paper, how you really want your life to be and look, you then have to match a business that allows for that lifestyle. So there's no point creating a business where, like a consultancy business, where you're just constantly having to trade your time for money if that doesn't work for your dream lifestyle. So once I had my dream lifestyle in mind and I knew I wanted to start a business, then I knew what type of business I wanted to run, and it was one that would allow me to live that dream lifestyle. So as I mentioned already, it's a dropshipping business that I went into because it allows the dream lifestyle that I had and that I really put together after reading the book. And the first step in running a dropshipping business is always to choose the products that you want to sell So to get a head start, if this is a business that you think would actually match your dream lifestyle as well, you can download my list of 101 niche ideas from the description, and that will give you a big head start with designing a business that allows you to live your dream lifestyle as well. But it was this book that gave me the permission to think about what sort of business do I want to run that matches my dream lifestyle. The 9th big lesson from this book was about how travel actually educates you and how you can become a much more well-rounded person by traveling and exploring the world. So that's now got me to travel the world multiple times a year. And now that I can do it alongside my job as well, I'm able to work from wherever I go around the world. And what that does is it teaches me a lot more about myself when you go into different cultures. And it also taught me that I don't necessarily have to stay in my hometown. You can see the world and it will make you grow so much as a person. And traveling is a big theme in this book and all of the lessons you learn by going abroad. The 10th and final lesson that I learned from the 4-hour work week was continuous self-improvement. And that learning is a lifelong commitment. Ultimately, I realized that to get what you want in life, you need to become that person that can achieve those things. So through reading this book, it gave me really big goals, big dreams about the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And it made me realize that I would need to be in a continuous cycle of self-improvement to become that person who can achieve those results and live that lifestyle. So it inspired me to really start to enjoy learning and invest in my own learning and development. And that's when I started to invest in courses and programs online so I could learn the lessons that I needed to learn to get started with a business and to start becoming that person that could achieve the results that I wanted. So now wrapping up the book as a whole, when you read the title, The 4-Hour Work Week, you start to think that it might be about working less. But in fact, it's more so about living more and not filling your time aimlessly and hopelessly with work for work's sake. Instead, it's about reducing the amount of busy work you do to be able to create a lifestyle that you love and really making the most of the one life that we get. So this book had a huge impact on me, and hopefully summarizing it into those 10 lessons, you were able to understand some of the biggest points from this book, and you can understand why it's such a go-to book for people within the space of digital nomads and e-commerce business owners. For those of you that are eager to start a dropshipping business that allows you to live the 4-hour work week lifestyle, then I recommend you start by subscribing to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed this. I release these types of videos every week. And to start off, one of the key things that you need to learn if you want to start dropshipping is how to find UK dropshipping suppliers. So I'd recommend that that's the next video that you watch, which you can click, that's on the screen at the moment. So go ahead and watch that video. Thanks for watching today. Take care, and I'll speak to you in the next video.